goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. To the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, rider. I get those goosebumps every time. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mags.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. You know what? I'm really happy it's nearly match day. We need this. We need to get this stench of defeat offers from Monday night, and we need their feel good factor back. We need these back. We need the sunglasses back. That's what we need. But welcome all in the chat. Make sure you're clicking those likes and saying hello in the live chat as well. But first of all, Daz, Chris, how are you on this fine Thursday evening?
All good with me. I was in the office today, but I'm finished for the week. I've taken tomorrow off because, partly because it's an election in Ireland tomorrow, but a lot of places they use the schools for voting. So my boys' school is closed, so that's why I took tomorrow off. But I'm also still laughing at that the article I just mentioned to you, Pete, from Martin Ziegler. You have to Google that one, Chris. It's just ridiculous. But how are you, Chris?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, similar to you. I was in the office today as well. Nice day in the office. It was really worthwhile. It was nice seeing people. And yeah, another busy evening. So I haven't even caught up with you boys properly. Normally we have a little chat before we go live, but I was a little bit late, so apologies for that. But no, I'm all good, and I completely agree with what Pete said. It's kind of like, you know, we need a game now. We need a game to try and put everything to bed. And if we go out and, you know, put up a really good performance and hopefully get 3 points against Palace, West Ham will soon be forgotten. So yeah, I do feel that's what we need. But Pete, how are you, mate?
I'm all right. I had a very productive day at work. So, like, you know, when you have one of those productive days, you get lots done, and you think, like, yeah, you know what? That's a good day. Friday tomorrow, weekend ahead, football's back, an opportunity to right some wrongs. And yeah, you know, for all this sort of like downbeatness that we had maybe earlier on this week, I'm starting to feel a little bit more positive again. It's you know, just the shoulders are going. I feel like we're gonna be all right. But look, we'll get into it.
Hang on, Pete. Before you do get into it, and I just realized it myself. It's Thanksgiving today in the US, so I suppose just happy Thanksgiving to anyone that watching from the US or anyone that's celebrating it. So very good. Enjoy it. Enjoy the time off. Yeah. No, get back into it now, Pete.
Yeah, no, everyone enjoy their turkey and celebrations, of course. Always a big time over there. This is going to be an interesting one because Rich is going to join us. He'll be with us shortly, and we just wanted to obviously have a little bit of a conversation to begin with. I think there's a really good question that's in the chat that kind of brings us into this conversation. The reason being is because obviously Palace against Newcastle United. There's been a lot of Palace Newcastle United conversations going on the last few months, particularly around the potential signing in the summer of Mark Gay. Now, we tried to get a word from a certain individual about his thoughts on this Mark Gay saga. He'd message me privately, but he wouldn't share anything. He wouldn't come onto the channel because he was too busy. However, Tom Dixon asked the question, how much would you sell Mark Gay for if Newcastle came back in for him in January? Well, we asked him, and we asked D. D, unfortunately, couldn't make the show live tonight because he's working, but we asked him the question about Mark Gay. So Here's Dee's response to this.
What did he say? Let's see.
What's going on, people? It is D here from Back of the Nest for a Gahey talk. For the Gahey talk. Mark Gahey over the summer linked to Newcastle, once again being linked with another move to Newcastle in the January transfer window. I'm going to be giving you my perspective as a Palace fan. It's not going to be long because my opinion based on how Palace operate doesn't change based on these stories. Look, the contract situation with Mark Gahey not having that long left is a concern for Palace. He hasn't signed an extension. We saw it over the summer. Those were the conversations. He hasn't signed an extension. Would Palace be banking on selling Gahey? It didn't work out. You might have your own perspectives as a Newcastle fan, but as a Palace fan, we had our valuation. We didn't want to sell him. Newcastle didn't meet it, and we moved on. We're not in desperate need to sell him. However, as January is approaching and he still hasn't signed another extension, of course, there's going to be rumours. Once again, could Gahey go to Newcastle? In my honest opinion, I don't see Gahey really going to any club in January unless very, very good money is offered. We're looking to strengthen. We're struggling right now in the Premier League as it is. And we're looking to add more pieces to try and get more wins. If we were to sell Gahey and then afterwards bring in a few other players, that doesn't mean we're really strengthening, because then we're going to have to focus on the defense as well, which the defense might go weaker without Gahey because he's a very good player. So I don't think Gahey will leave this January window. I think there is a possibility over in the summer, especially if he doesn't sign an extension. And yeah, I think he's been very good for us. It does make a lot of sense for Newcastle to go after him because I think he can bridge the gap, baby steps to fight with those elite clubs at the top. And I think he's a great player to do so. He's an England international, a regular starter. And yeah, but in all honesty, I'm sorry, but I just don't see Gahey leaving Palace in January window unless something crazy is offered around £60 million, which with his contract situation, maybe Palace needs to seriously consider that, but around 40 to 50, I don't think so. But let's see. Crazy things have happened. But thank you for having me on the channel and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Interesting.
Yeah, very.
Boys, what are your thoughts on that? We wanted to ask him the question around Mark Gahey, and I'm sure we'll ask Rich the same question when he joins us shortly. So, yeah, what are your initial thoughts to that?
Well, we all know that Mark Gahey is a generational talent. I think that's what he's referred to. No, I like Mark Gahey. I think we should still sign him. Not for the 60 million that D is alluding to there, but I think for me, because his contract situation, he's 24, 25 in July, 45, 50 million, take it or leave it, but offer it at the before the start of January or at the start of the when the window opens. And if it's there's no backing over, waiting the whole window for this, do the deal, or we move on. And then Palace are within their rights to say no, and that's it. We move on. That's my thoughts. But I'd go after him and I'd bring him in. I think he would be class for us.
What do you think, Chris? Are you the same as Dad? And is it still a priority signing for you in this window?
Not necessarily in this window. I think for me, the priority signing in this window has to be a right winger. For me, it just has to be in those attacking areas, particularly because we're struggling so much in terms of scoring goals. However, I like what Daz said, in terms of going to Palace with a figure and saying, right, okay, here's the offer. You've got until X date. If the answer's no, fine, but we move on and it doesn't drag on for the whole 31 days of January. We don't want that. I thought D's valuation was interesting, but do you know what? It's funny. I was quite shocked when I was listening to D, because D talks a lot of sense, but that was the most calm I think I've ever seen D, and it was unusual. But he come across really well. Felt it was a really good video, but I get where D's coming from in terms of from a Palace perspective. You don't particularly want to lose your captain, very good centre back. And you obviously want to get top dollar for them, so I completely get that. But particularly after Eddie Howe's comments, when he was asked about Mark Gay and figures were bandied around, and he very much said, didn't he? Oh, didn't get to that figure. So to me, I'm assuming that Newcastle may have made an offer. I could be wrong. Maybe made an offer of 55, possibly 60 million. Maybe, I don't know. And I think that will have significantly reduced now. So if we were to go in with an offer, I think, like Daz said, you're probably talking 45, 50 million. Will Palace accept that? And I do take Dee's point that, would it make sense for Palace to lose, the captain, centre-back, and then bring in 2 players? Because, yes, you could argue they've strengthened because they've got an extra player, but they would have significantly, weakened the squad as well, you could argue, losing your captain, losing that really big player for them. So it's an interesting one. I think overall, to summarise, I think for me, the priority is right wing. However, that's not me saying I don't want Mark Gay, but perhaps it is, like Dia suggested, it is something that we revisit in the summer. And again, I think the price will drop even further then, because by then we'll know whether Mark Gay is going to sign a contract extension. Because I think if it gets to next summer and he's only got a year left, I think Palace will reluctantly let him go rather than lose him for nothing in 12 months down the line. But yeah, interesting. For me, I wouldn't go above 45, 50 million. 50 million is the top ceiling, in my opinion. But if you were to tell me that we've only got 50 million to spend, I would be spending it elsewhere personally. But what about you, Pete? What did you think?
For me, it's still a priority position. I also agree with you that a right wing needs to be signed as well. But my thoughts on January. I think we need to sign in both areas, ideally.
Yeah.
However, I do think it's a priority position. If there's a deal to be done with Mark Gay, I'd certainly be going back there. Obviously, he doesn't think it will happen in January, but I have to say he has kind of loosened his stance on that, where he was adamant he wasn't leaving at all in the summer. He was saying if there's money there in a potential deal to be done, then it may well be something that can be done. I think it can be done if we give the right type of money in. I'll be honest with you. I'm sure we'll get Rich's thoughts on this as well. I think 50 million is a fair market value for Mark Gay right now. We'll get to his form for Palace when we talk to Rich as well. But in terms of what I've seen from him for England so far this season, he's still just as good and still just as effective as a centre-back, certainly in a 2, which is what he would play for Newcastle United. His pace, his recovery pace, his ability to block and tackle well, and his ability on the ball is still something that we desperately need. And I think it's an area we haven't strengthened in since Sven Botman. And I think in order to transition out centre-backs, Dan Burn, Fabian Schär even, who's 33 now, we have to start thinking ahead. I think it is a position that needs to be brought in with a transition, because Botman's going to need time. He'll be back as a figure, and he's been a big miss, but we need him back 100%, and that might take a little bit of time. Whereas if you bring in Gay will be able to hit the ground running. And I think, but equally, I think you made a great point. We go in early with a bid and say that's what the offer is. You've got an opportunity to take it. If they don't, that's fine, because I expect us to have 3 or 4 other options to go for in January if that isn't on the table. So that's kind of where I am with that. But Mark Gay, regardless of what people say, is still a fantastic centre-back, and would be a huge plus for this Newcastle United team. So that's kind of where I am with that, boys. But it's definitely a conversation we can continue, and I'm sure we will. So we'll kind of leave it there for now. However, at this point, we have our guest waiting in the green room, so we're going to welcome him in. And it's not the first time he's come and joined us on this channel, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome back Rich from the Eagle-Eyed Football YouTube channel, covering all things Crystal Palace. So let's bring him in and let's get this discussion going for the big game on Saturday.
Welcome, Rich.
Good evening, all. Good evening.
How you doing, man?
How you doing, mate?
About Mark Gay, actually, very interesting.
Well, do you want to go there first?
Let's talk about it, because you know what? Can I be honest with you? If you had fronted the £65 million, you would have had him. You would have had him. I promise you. Anderson was not the priority to leave, and I think because obviously as the window started dragging on and you kept dragging your heels and not paying the fee that we wanted, and I would like to think we were very upfront with the fee. Then obviously Fulham came in for Anderson. I was like, bang. Granted, I'll be honest with you. I think we need to sell him in January. It sounds mad. It sounds mad, but hear me out.
Tell us why. Come on.
We're not a club that's blessed with money. We're not. And I don't think we will be in the best of positions allowing Gay to get to the summer. Here's why. Because he would then only cost 30 million. If that. Because when you started going into the last year of your window, it gets a bit techie. You know. Whereas if we sell him in January, I think we could still get 50, potentially. About £50 million. Anything more than that's obviously a bonus. The only reason why I'd say we'll keep him until summer is there's rumours of this potential takeover. So Texter's shares, he's willing to sell his shares. And if he does that, it could give us a bit of a cash injection where maybe we can hold out a little bit. Still lose him in the summer. Like we'll expect to do that. But it wouldn't be as much as a rush. So it's a tough one because obviously we're 19th and we're going to lose our captain and our starting centre back, and that sounds crazy. But do we risk keeping him and not getting the money and not being able to invest properly in January, or do we stick it out, hope we survive? Which I think we should be all right. We're getting a lot of players back now. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, but.
And Rich, do you think that like yourself and Dee are like a good sample set of the fan base? Dee obviously wants to keep him, or not sell for at least 60 million, and you're saying you think we potentially should sell, we could cash out now while we can. Do you think that this fan base is split in that fashion?
It's definitely split because look, as a player himself, I don't want him going anywhere. I'd love him to sign a new deal, but that's not going to happen, and we can't begrudge him wanting to spread his wings. He's now an starting England centre back, by the way. Yeah. Now, he's got to want to be playing at the highest level, and I can't begrudge him with that. So I'm just looking at it more of a club level. I know my owner, Steve Parish, is tight with money. You know, you look at our January our window in the summer. He got Chaddy Riyad in for I think 12 million. Got Daichi Kamada in quite early on the free transfer. We then had to wait until the final 2 days of the window to get our other signings in, you know, that's not how you run a club. Glasgow's fuming, you know. He then had to force Mateta back early, Gay back early. All of them played European finals, you know. So I'm kind of thinking maybe we have to cash in knowing how terrible our owners are in windows. I don't know. We have to wait and see. And it doesn't help that apparently Man City want Waterton in January as well.
Well, Man City will have to Wharton.
Yeah, allegedly.
Oh,
Well,
sorry. Go on, Pete. Go on.
No, go for it. Go for it. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, you mentioned Wharton, and I know segueing a little bit, and sorry, Pete, if I'm jumping the gun here, but is there any concerns at all over losing Eze? I know you've just mentioned Wharton, and obviously Gay. There's a little bit of
Eze's not had the best of starts, but he's still one of our better players. And once again, I don't blame him. He had to play. He was with England. You know, that tournament finished late July, and then the season started 2 weeks later. So he hadn't had much of a break. You know, he is allegedly back, ready to start Saturday. He had told Glasner he was ready for the Villa game. Glasner said, "I don't want to risk you." So he's allegedly, I say allegedly because you just never know. We're expecting him to start Saturday, which will give us a massive boost. We got an amazing point against Villa. I think we played really, really, really well, playing counter-attacking football. I think we should play the same way against you, because if we tried to press you, the pace that you have going the other way will cause us problems. So, but Eze could be the difference in us potentially nicking 3 points here. Potentially. Referencing.
I knew it was going to happen, boys.
Regarding Wharton, I think Wharton will be back for Ipswich.
I knew it was going to happen, boys. We can't have all the fun in terms of Villa have played without Wharton and Eze and all the rest of them. All the other teams have played without them, and then all of a sudden we get them coming back into the team because you had Decore back into the team.
He's back now, yeah.
He played. He played really well as well from what I watched. I only watched part of the second half, but he
and this is it. We've had a lot of the season with no Decore, Wharton injured, Eze not fit. Like we've had a lot of injuries all season. No excuses. We've been crap.
But is it an excuse though? Because this is the thing. A lot of people don't realize it. Keep it coming. But no, is it a reason, or is it an excuse? Because you've just named like pretty much the high rollers of your top players there, that haven't been playing. Has it been a bit of a masked situation that they're in?
So if it was a case where we're still competing or couldn't get over the line, maybe I'd say, if we had. But there's been games where I don't think we've not been battered in any games this season. If you look at our things, we've lost by one. I think Fulham's the only game we've lost by more than one goal. That's how mad it sounds, but like we've just not been great ourselves going forward. And that's, like I said, it's first of all, it's down to the board because we didn't replace adequately. Oh wow.
Keep this coming. This is great.
But like I said, the Spurs game at home and the Villa game last week, I was like, we've got the Glasgow Palace is back. And I'm just hoping we can continue this weekend.
Okay. So we're at the stage now where we've played 11 games or so, one win, okay, to your name this season. You're still in the cup, where you obviously knocked out Aston Villa. But from the Premier League point of view, like, are you worried that you're going to be in a relegation scrap sort of going into this season, or are you confident that those players coming back are going to see a huge upturn and spike in performances? Where are you with this situation? And the reason why I asked you this is because what we saw last season at Selhurst Park with Glasgow, you guys were on absolute fire. You deserved to beat us. You were excellent that night, and you had a superb run. But that shine just seems to have been kind of taken away slightly. Do you think you can get that back?
I think we can. Like I said, I don't think in any of the games we've been battered. And the only game this season I think we can comprehensively say, look, we deserve to not pick any points from was Fulham at home. Every other game we had chances. Chelsea, we drew, had chances. Liverpool at home, we lost, had chances. Man United drew 0-0 at home, had chances. Leicester, we went 2-0 down and got back to 2-2. Chances. So we've not been completely out of games, but we've not been good enough to win games. And sometimes our defensive errors are the reason why we haven't been able to get 3 points. As I said, the transfer window that we had was really poor. And it knocked out the balance. Look, Michael Elise, I think people are starting to realize how we've been bragging about him for years. I think people are now, because he's at Bayern Munich, now people are starting to see how good he is. But he's a player that could go inside or outside. And now we've replaced him with Ismail Assar or Daichi Kamada, who just know how to play one way. So it's knocked out the whole balance of our right-hand side, which then means we're expecting Eze to do everything. And now he's being double and triple teamed. So we're nullified, completely nullified. And that's strictly on the board. Like I said, fingers crossed, we can start picking up. Because I don't think we picked some very good points, and maybe we should just play the top teams because that seems to be where our joy is coming from. And obviously, you lot got quite a host of injuries. I'm just hoping this is the time where we can take advantage, even if we're not great. Can we just nick it? Maybe. I don't know from your standpoint how you feel about your defending, but I know crosses seem to be an issue, and your defense looks quite passive. So if it gets in between the midfield and defense, your defenders tend to drop back as opposed to engage. And that's why Eze, I think, is key, because if he picks up in the pocket, he's got space to run into. Yeah. But we have to wait and see.
While we're on Eze, there's a good question here from Brett, and he asked, it's a historical one as well. But he goes, is Eze without Olise a bit like Bright without Wright?
Absolutely.
My age, says Brett.
Absolutely. And even when Olise was a Palace player, when Olise was out the side, Eze struggled. And I think it's just solely because everyone knew Eze is a threat. And he doesn't have that knack to say, I'm just going to beat 2-3 players anyway. Olise without Eze just carried the team. But Eze without Olise can't do that. When they're both together, my goodness me, how good were they? And that's why I'm saying we need to get a similar, hopefully in January, like Ryan Shirky's been linked again to us.
Cheers, that Chris.
Again. So I don't see it happening, but that will be a statement signing. And then we can get that balance back. If not, bring back Jez from Sheffield United, because he's been outstanding for them on loan. Bring him back. But I would rather us buy Shirky, keep Jez on loan, keep his development going, and then we've got Shirky and Jez next season. But we have to wait and see.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one. If Ryan,
wait, are you linked with Shirky as well? Please don't tell me you are, because we won't get him otherwise.
I don't know whether we're linked to. I mean, we link ourselves with him.
2 years now. We talked about it.
Yeah.
He's a quality player, though, isn't he?
Oh, mate. He just technically he's absolutely brilliant.
Oh, and
it's
you
just
the
baggage
don't
that
you?
comes with.
Oh no.
And as well, Rich, it's not only like the player that is obviously the player obviously attracts you in terms of what he can do, but it's also the fee. Like you're hearing, like Leon are willing to let me go for like 15 million.
Yeah,
it's like, come on.
Like, so the Leon owner is part owner of Palace as well. So this is why we're hoping John Textor. However, John Textor's not happy with us because he wanted to. He's majority owner of us, but doesn't have majority say. Steve Parish has. So he's trying to sell his shares in Palace. So he might literally put his two fingers up to us and say, "Screw you, I don't care."
Sorry, Rich. There's some kind of like associated party transaction kind of thing going on there, in a kind of multi-club model that Man United fell into. Oh, love it, but that they couldn't get John Clare Talibo. They were trying to sign him, and they couldn't get him because of that kind of link with Nice and Sir Jim at the time. So I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. Like I said, he could just say, you know what, as a parting gift, here you go. Well, let's accept this bid. Wow. If other clubs come in, Shirky as well as a person, he's got his own say. Players have a lot more power these days. So he might just say, I don't want to go Palace. Send me Newcastle. Or send me, I don't know who else I need. Maybe Liverpool, because Salah doesn't really have cover down the right-hand side now.
Liverpool have been linked and Chelsea have been linked going back. If you go,
why don't Chelsea need players?
Well, Chelsea wouldn't need him now. I mean, they didn't even need Pedro Neto, but they still signed him, so you can't put it past them. But yeah, Liverpool, I think we're linked as well. I think we have been tentatively linked with him in the past. But to be fair, with Leon's situation financially, everything's up in the air. You don't know who he could go to and when. But he's a quality player. But I just wanted to touch on really quickly. You talked about players potentially coming in, but you already bought a number of players in the window, and I wanted to just focus on a couple of them. You talk about Ismail Assar as well. You talked about Kamada, Eddie Nketiah. signing for a lot of money from Arsenal. He was meant to be the goals that was going to kind of take you forward and almost either supplement Mateta and what he was doing up front, who was on absolute fire at the back end of the season, or to be sort of a more permanent replacement for him. What's gone on with him? Why hasn't that kind of started like a house on fire? Is there an issue there? What's going on with Eddie Nketiah? Because it doesn't seem to have gone well from the outside looking in.
It's very simple. Obviously, we spent money on him, so he's expected to start games. The problem is the way Glasner wants to play, he needs a big focal point up front with the formation we play. So he's kind of had to shoehorn Eddie Nketiah as an inside 10, where Elisa used to play. And that's not his game. So he's been poor for us. He has been poor. But if Eddie can accept the fact that Mateta's number one and he's happy to play, it sounds mad coming from Arsenal, but being number two, he gives us a different option, in certain games. So for example, even I think against you, I think he would have been a good option to exploit the lack of pace you have in your defense. But like I said, him playing in inside 10 is not his position. Daichi Kamada is not a right-sided 10 either. He normally plays on the left, but Eze plays there. And now we're trying to shoehorn him in centre mid. He's suspended, by the way. So, yeah, we're happy about that. And I think, like I said, there's a lot of round square pegs, round holes with our team at the moment. And that's all been based since January. But Eddie will come good. He will come good. I don't think Mateta's going to stay long anyway. He's been kind of flirting with the potential of that leaving as well. So Nketiah will make the number 9 position his own and take it from there.
Will Nketiah be fit for the weekend?
No. So our injuries are Wharton, Nketiah, Francois. I think that's it now. So Eze should be back to start. Wharton, I believe, is back for Tuesday night against Ipswich. France has been injured since God knows when.
Matthias Franca, is it?
Yeah. Eddie's out. I think he might be back for City. I'm just trying to think. Who else is out? That's about it. Because we got Hughes back, we got Lerma back, we got Decore back, all for Villa. So we had 8 players out when we had Fulham. Mark Gay played centre mid.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we noticed that. it was a head scratcher. Some Palace fans. Sorry, go on, Chris. Go on.
No, mate. On that note, tell Rich your theory on that, because it was a good theory what you said. About Gay playing in midfield, and just see. Obviously, it'd be interesting to see if Rich.
Yeah, I kind of. We were looking at that situation because we were talking when the game was on and he was playing against Fulham. It was like, well, why the hell is he playing in midfield? There was some Palace fans said he's played there before, but if he's your best centre back, which most Palace fans would agree that he is, why wouldn't you play your best players in their best positions? And I just had the thought that could it be, and you probably won't agree with this, but could it be part of his transition out of the team? So if you're playing 3 at the back and you're playing with the back 3 that's not got Gay in, is that Glasner looking to the future? Is that Glasner looking at?
Don't overthink it, because Nathaniel Klein was
it wasn't something that I guaranteed. Like I thought it was definitely a situation, but it was just a theory that I kind of just put out there. What are your thoughts on that?
No, it was just strictly for that game because Nathaniel Klein had to play left centre back. Where Gay normally played. We had no midfielders.
Right.
So we started Justin Devaney from the academy.
Yeah.
So it was literally just the fact that all 4 of our starting potential midfielders were unfit. And that's Hughes was suspended. Decore just coming back from injury. Wharton injured. Lerma injured.
Right.
So that was it.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
That question answered. It was like I say, it was just the strangest thing for us, and obviously not being Palace fans, we weren't sure on what the situation was, because when you don't support a team, you don't necessarily follow the day-to-day movements of a club. So yeah, that was an interesting one. Right, we're gonna get some tactics or certainly some lineups in just a second. But Dad, is there a couple of questions? I think I've seen a few coming in for Rich. If we want to throw some his way.
Yes, 1 second now. We've already answered a few of them. Yeah, I suppose this one from Freiston 81. He has, do you think the sale of Elise is the biggest reason why Palace are 19th?
I wouldn't say the sale of him. I would say the inability to replace him for. You're not going to get Elise, but a player that has a similar style. That's what you've got directors of footballers for and like scouts for. You know, it's crazy how we've gone from a left-footed right-sided player to a right-footed right-sided player. It just knocks off the balance. You know, so I think it's more so the fact that we didn't replace him. I mean, I would have rather us just keep Jez if that was the case. You know, just give him a chance playing there. You know, it still would have kept us balanced, but yeah, I don't play that.
Let's go to this one from Tom Dixon then, and I'm going to answer it first. I think it's a yes that the Palace will survive relegation, and from what the little bit I've seen of them, but he asked, do you think Palace will survive relegation this season?
Yeah, I think we'll be fine. I think, like I said, there's minus the Fulham game. I don't think we've been out of any of the other games we've played. Not saying that we've deserved to win or deserved to lose, but there's been no game where I've thought, yeah, we're crap. We were terrible here. Minus the Fulham game. Every other game is like, look, we didn't take our chances, we lost. Fair enough. Or we defended badly, we lost. Fair enough.
Okay.
Next question, last question for a while. It goes from Foxy. Goes question for Rich. Wasn't Palace's run of form last season without Gay starting, who was injured? And is Anderson the big miss that not many are talking about?
See, a lot of people have said that, but I tell you what, Maxence Lacroix has been sensational for us. He has been brilliant. Yes, Gay was injured, but look, I'm not going to blame much on Gay. Look, all summer his head was turned. Like, not all right, turns is a harsh word, but there was a potential move there for him, which didn't materialize for whatever reason that is. Then his obviously centre back partner decides to go. It's the same with Eze. Eze, we were actually expecting Eze to leave as well. No one bidded for him. And then all of a sudden he's thinking, raw, my mate, at least he's gone to Bayern Munich and I'm still here, you know? So yeah, Lacroix sensational. Honestly, he's a very, very good defender. And we've kind of got a nice little back three now of Lacroix, Gay and Chalobah, who are, there's still many mistakes in them, but it's a lot more solid than what we started off with.
Okay. Well, with that, let's bring up the starting lineup. You've talked about players that might not be available. You've talked about players that may well be back and starting. So we'll let's have a look at it. So ultimately, I've to save a bit of time, I've put the team that played against West Ham on the screen for Newcastle already. The only change in there is Dan Burn. However, that's a conversation for Chris and Daz to maybe talk about potential changes here and there.
What's the changes coming there?
I'm sure there is. However, Rich, talk us through your first 11. What's it looking like formation wise, and where and who's going to start?
So we'll play our usual 3-4-2-1. So Dean Anderson in goal, back three of Gahey, Lacroix, and so Gay will be the left centre back, Lacroix will be centre back.
Yeah.
And Chalobah right centre back. Okay. Right wing back is Munoz.
Okay.
And left wing back is Mitchell.
So let's put together.
Yeah. I think we'll keep the same centre midfielders, Decore and Hughes.
Okay. Are they kind of like a double pivot?
Yeah, I'd say so. Now, 2 inside 10, so you can put them either side of Gimares, where Gimares is right now. The left will be Ebbs. Right side will be Saar.
Okay.
And up top, Teto.
Okay. So that's the Palace team. Interesting. A different type of formation than we're used to. Normally, it's either a matchup or a similarity to what we've set up. But just before I come to the Newcastle perspective, Rich, what are your strengths? For the times that you've scored goals or created chances or looked dangerous this season, where does it tend to come from on the pitch? Like, what side of the pitch? Who tends to be the man that makes it happen? If talking to Newcastle fans here and people that are watching, where is it likely to come from if you're going to do something on Saturday?
I would say if we're able to pick up the ball between the midfield and the defense, that's where we look our sharpest. Daniel Munoz, you're going to see him just do that all day. Like, don't be surprised if he ends up next to Nick Pope at some point.
Right.
He's an engine. Mitchell can't do it as good, but he's better defensively.
Yeah.
So I would say, I think Ismail Assar and Eze will be very, very pivotal.
Yeah.
Especially with Bruno in that sort of number 6 recovery. And that may change depending on what
I heard that Gimares and Willock won't be available. Is that wrong?
Well, we don't know on Bruno Guimaraes. We don't know. He got a glute injury, went straight down the tunnel when he got subbed on Monday, which is never a good sign. It always means that treatment needs to be given like instantly on whatever injury that you have. So, we're not sure on that one. However, with Joe Willock, he's been training this week. So although he came off at half time, and I said to the boys when we did our review, I was always convinced that he came off because he had a bad half, because he was really poor. He did get a knock just before half time, but Newcastle have said that's the reason why he came off. But I wasn't convinced on that. I always felt that it was more of his performance levels than an injury. And he's been training the last 2 days. So for me, I think he comes in. And I personally, I think he starts, but the boys might have a different opinion on that. So just before we go to Chris and Daz, like looking at it, so you think it's going to be in these kind of half spaces here with Saar and Eze that are going to try and pick the ball up in that almost number 10 area?
I think that will be our biggest joy because like I said, I don't think Shah and Burn are the defenders to kind of, if they pick up the ball, they're not going to engage. Like if they decide to run at them, they're going to drop into their box. I was looking back at the goal Palmer scored against you for Chelsea at the bridge, and I think he picked it up like 30, 35 yards from goal, and ended up having the shot inside the penalty area. So that's what I mean regarding that engaging. What's your thoughts on Joe Linton on the right hand side? Because it sounds like I won't mind that.
Well,
you're going to hear about that in a second.
To be fair, Rich, you've naturally segued into that. So, boys, let's talk about the Newcastle lineup. So this was the lineup, all apart from Burn. We expect Burn. I think we all agree. For Kelly. But the team's there. What are we changing, boys? What are we adding? What are we taking away from that starting lineup? Talk to me.
Right. Well, let's go to the formation that formation is correct, but the personnel we selected the other day in our therapy session, the reaction show. And Chris, jump in here and correct anything you think needs to change as well. But in goal, Popey, yes, Hall, Byrne, Shar, and Livramento all fine. Now, this you could make a call for Trips there actually as well, right back, but I'm going to say we're Tino for now. Now, the midfield is where we'll change it slightly. Willock stays where he is. Longstaff for this game and for this to try out this personnel change, Longstaff will go to the bench. Tonali will join, and then get Tonali and swap him with Bruno. So Tonali to play in the defensive CDM role there, and Bruno in a more attacking number 8 kind of and to try and unlock Palace. Then personnel is fine for me as well up front, but I want Joe Linton on the left with that chemistry, that FIFA chemistry thing that he's got going with Willock, and that's the only way that works. For me, Willock doesn't work with if Joe Linton isn't playing there, and Gordon can do a job on the right. I know he's great on the left as well, but Gordon, as well as we said, he's question marks over his performances in the last little while. So, but I'm going to still stick with Gordon, but on the right, that lovely cross he put into Isak against Arsenal. Some more of that, please. So that's the way I'm laying up. But Chris, Anthony, you change.
Do you know what, mate? After listening to Rich and obviously after seeing the lineup, and Pete, I don't want you to change anything because you can have the final say, but I'm just going to throw my 2 pennies worth in. And I never thought I'd say this, but happy with the back 4, happy with the goalie. That's absolutely fine. But the more I'm looking at that 4-box midfield of Palace's, I'm thinking, do we need Joe in the middle? Because I'm worried. And Pete, you picked up on this earlier when you spoke about Bruno. I'm worried. I know Bruno's not there at the moment, but I'm worried that we might need more power, more strength, more legs in the midfield. Because Decore, Hughes, Eze, and Sarr, they all get down the pitch pretty good. Do you know what I mean? And I just wonder whether we need a bit more physicality in there. And Rich brought up a really good point, because obviously Willock went off, and I think that in the main it was a tactical decision, but there could also be, a little bit. I suppose what I'm trying to say is, from my point of view, if I was, on the if I was on like the coaching team, any kind of doubt with Joe Willock, I'd just pull him out. I wouldn't even risk him. So then I'm thinking, right, well, if there's no Joe Willock, Bruno, I think will play. Being the captain, and I think, and I do, like you, Pete, I do think it was more like, I'll just get him off. And I think that's why he went straight down the tunnel, because I think it was just like, he was probably frustrated, disappointed, angry, etc. And he's just gone straight down. And I think I do want to see Tonali in the 6. I do want to see Bruno in the 8. Whether we'll see it or not, I don't know. But that I really like. But I'm just wondering whether Joe Linton will be where Joe Willock is. And possibly, because again, we all know, it maybe worst kept secret, don't know, but we all know that Gordon wants to play on the left. Is that an opportunity then to throw Gordon on the left because Joe's back in the centre of midfield? And then, God forbid, I mean, me personally, I'd start Barnes, but whether or not he gives Miggy a shout, whether he gives Murphy a shout on the right, I know. I'm just thinking what Eddie would do, because, and boys, we didn't discuss this after the West Ham preview. The West Ham post match. Am I right in thinking? Did I miss this? But didn't the commentator say that Eddie at one point was going to bring Miggy on, then realised he had no more subs? Yeah,
because he had to take Bruno off. Bruno it did look like he had some kind of an injury he just needed he couldn't perform anymore. So they had, and that's why he brought on Trips instead of Bruno, and then he couldn't bring on Miggy then.
Yeah. So I don't know, and Pete, counter any of that, mate. But I've just got a feeling Joe Willock won't start, and it would make sense to me to have Joe Linton in the middle purely. I agree with you boys, and we've spoken about it before, that Joe Linton going forwards should be a left winger. But I just wonder whether, particularly with Anthony Gordon being out of sorts, and it seems we start a certain way, and then Anthony Gordon ends up on the left anyway. And I'm thinking, do we just start with Gordon on the left and put Joe in the middle, given that 4-box midfield, which does concern me a little bit because, like I say, they're all pretty good at getting around the pitch, and what we don't want is to be overloaded in the centre. But Pete, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
Yeah, in terms of the back four, back five, including Pope, as you were. I think Trippier. I think Daz, you're right. I think Trippier will be with a shout, but not just yet because he's only just come back. I think Tino Livramento didn't have the worst game. I didn't think he played bad. So I don't see any reason why he wouldn't start. Sandro Tonali has to play for me. I'll be honest with you. I think Sandro Tonali now needs to be told from Eddie Howe that between now and January, I think the 2nd against Tottenham away, you're going to be starting every game. That's what I need to hear from Eddie Howe. So that's Sandro Tonali. I'm sick and tired of Sandro Tonali being on the bench, 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 30 minutes there, off the bench here and there, expected to produce miracles. The lad's barely had a run in the team of regular starts since he signed for the club. And yes, he had a 10-month ban in between that, but he needs a run of games now. You don't keep a £55 million Italian midfielder on the bench for Sean Longstaff. With all due respect to Sean Longstaff, you just don't do it. Newcastle United must be the only team in the world that keep that caliber of player on the bench for a player that's not even half of his ability. And as I say, it's no disrespect to Longstaff. It's just a fact. And he needs to play. And I think he should be playing there. Absolutely. I'm not sure about this man. And the reason why I say I don't think Bruno Guimaraes may play on Saturday is that I think they might not want to take the risk. And the reason being is because you've got Palace on Saturday, you've got Liverpool on Wednesday, and you've got Leicester the following Saturday. They're 3 big games over a short period of time. You don't want Bruno being risked and pulling up with a worse injury and missing the next 2 because we're going to need him for the next 2. So I'm thinking in my head, is Eddie going to say, right, let's not take the risk this week, give him a few more days rest and a bit more training in him to be ready for Wednesday and then go again on Saturday against Leicester. That's kind of my thinking on this. I'm not quite sure about that. So it could well be, and we might not want it, it could well be that. But for me, I'm going with Bruno all day long, and I think he should be playing there further forward to be in these little pockets that Rich talked about with Eze and Sarr, because this is what you need. You want Bruno here threading in these balls to Isak and Gordon and finding those little pockets and not having to feel like he needs to do a 60-yard recovery run, which he's not great at in those positions. Let Sandro mop up that and do that job there. I think it's a valid point that you made, Chris, about Joe Linton playing there. But as we saw against Arsenal, after about 20, 25 minutes, that happened naturally anyway. So I think they will. I think Joe Linton and Willock will start. And I think they will start exactly like that. And I think what will then happen in the game is that natural transition in there, because this is why they're so unique in a partnership, because they just do it seamlessly. And Joe Linton, if it does seem like they're overrunning us and they're causing a few problems, I think they will look to do that. And then it will set Joe Willock away down there. But what I want to see more than anything, boys, I want to see him being here and whipping balls into the box there. Like, he's a great crosser of the ball. We've seen it for England under 21s. We've seen it at times for Newcastle. He put a superb ball in, by the way, on Monday that nobody got on the end of. Yeah. Nobody was there. And I want to see him get forward a bit more as well. Tino, maybe to a lesser extent. But I think, I want to see him get forward a little bit more and do that job. But more so than anything, I need a performance from him. And I want him to be going at Mark Gay at every single opportunity. The one thing I've noticed about Gay, and Rich, you might be able to tell me differently, Gay does get caught high up for Palace in this back 3. I think in a back 2 he wouldn't, because he'd be very kind of structured in his position, but he does like to get forward and he doesn't get back as quick in his recoveries in that pocket. And that might be a license for Gordon on the counter, who isn't as workmanlike in his defensive responsibilities as he used to be. And it's something I've noticed about him. Doesn't get back and defend. He likes to kind of drift and stay forward. And I want him to exploit that space. And I want him to do what a natural winger does, is to get that ball down there and whip it into the box. That's what he needs to do as a winger. And you know what? If he's not happy in playing on that right, I'm sorry, tough. Because then we do this. And we bring Barnes in and we get him to do exactly the same. And I'm sorry, Barnes is second choice. We've got our two left wingers that are our first and second choices for right wing. And that tells you everything you need to know about this man and this man.
Chris out. Chris out.
Chris out.
I don't want either of them anywhere near the...
Can I just say though, Pete? Can I just say, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, mate. And you know how I feel about Murphy and Miggy. I've been banging on like you boys have for the last 18 months, 2 years. But I also know how our Eddie, acts. And it just wouldn't, genuinely, it would not surprise me if either of those two start on the right. I don't know, Chris has made the holes up. Mate, I just know how Eddie thinks. I do. And it just genuinely would not surprise me. And the reason I mentioned about Joe Linton pulling into the central midfield, it would make sense tactically, but then it also frees Gordon up on the left. And then it's like, oh, we need someone in on the right wing. Who can we put in? Oh, I'll just put Murphy or Miggy in, give him a chance. That's what I don't want to see Murphy or Miggy starting, but I just wonder whether he might do it. I mean, boys, when that lineup comes out, this is probably one of the lineups, isn't it? That we in recent weeks we've kind of pretty much named the lineup. This week, I think it is up in the air. I do think it is up in the air.
Yeah.
Just quickly on some of the points you made. To be fair, Mark does press up a bit, but that's only because Matson's Lacroix's recovery pace is ridiculous. He's rapid. I would be more concerned if Lacroix does it and Gay and Chalobah don't tuck in. Because Lacroix also is very aggressive. And it's weird because I know Isak's are very dangerous running behind that way. But I think Lacroix could afford to gamble as long as we have our centre backs tuck in, because Chalobah and Gay in their own right are quite quick as well. And if we can break up play in midfield, we might be able to have a chance to bring the ball up quicker. With your point to Lewis Hall, it sounds mad, but I almost want him to attack too, just because of Sarr's counter-attacking ability.
Yeah.
Now, it comes with a risk because Lewis Hall knows how to cross a football. He really does, But if he does bomb and we can somehow win the ball, if we get that ball played quickly down that right-hand side, once again, it opens up that space where I'm saying, can we run at Burns? Can we run at Shaw in that aspect and stuff? So it's weird. Like, it's almost like, can we bait you in with the hope of counter-attacking? Yeah. But it's a big risk because you can actually punish us in the same breath. So, we'll have to wait.
Yeah, it's interesting.
If Morgan doesn't drop back, please, that's brilliant for us too, because then Ebson's going to have a field day.
Well, this is it. And I think, there is going to be a lot of changes in performances. There has to be, and a lot of changes in maybe in personnel to see how this kind of game falls out. I know one or two people have mentioned Miggy, that they'd rather Miggy than Murphy. And there's a part of me that would probably agree with that. But actually, without sounding too horrible, I think Miggy's gone. I think Miggy's gone in January. All the noises. Luke Edwards put a piece out today saying that Miggy almost is now looking for a move in January because he's not getting any football. And it goes back to what happened in January this year, where he was almost frozen out from the team as a first team starter because he didn't make that move to Saudi, and it's got worse and worse this season. He's hung on now for 2 windows. He has to move on, and I think he's finally got the message. And I don't think I don't think between now, unless there's an injury crisis between now and January, I don't think Miggy Almiron starts another game for Newcastle United. So I actually genuinely think if there is a right wing change, as much as we probably won't want it, it would probably be Murphy, which is why I put the argument out there is if Gordon doesn't want to play on that right hand side and he's kicking up a fuss about it, put him on the bench and play Harvey Barnes there. Harvey Barnes is our top scorer alongside Isak. He's likely to get us a goal at some point. And so what we need to do is play our players that want to be on the pitch and want to play, and we'll be able to give everything. It's not too taxing a role. It's different, yes, because you're not cutting in and shooting for Gordon and Barnes, but both of them have the ability to cross the ball. We just need to see it more often. Beat your man, get the ball into the box. It's a simple job. It sounds to be simple me saying it, but actually it's simple enough for him because he'll know what to expect and he can make runs front and back and he'll know the ball is coming into the box. We just need to simplify our game and not make it too complicated. We know that Joe Linton will absolutely drive forward here against Chalobah and try and get balls into the box or cut in at an angle to try and get a shot on goal. But we know he's got the pace and power to do that. But Isak needs better service. He needs better service. We had, I think, 1 or maybe 2 shots on target the whole game. That isn't good enough against West Ham. For the amount of chances we created, to have 2 shots in the whole game on target is not good enough. So I think things need to improve in that attacking area because we certainly need more goals in this team.
Chris must have took it to heart because he's gone. Chris out. He's gone. Rich, I have a quick question for you. Right, just looking at who you're playing on Tuesday, then as well. You're playing Ipswich, and you're away to Ipswich. Which would you, if you had a choice of 3 points against either us or Ipswich, which would you take?
Against Ipswich, just because they're directly around us. But my hope is minimum of 4 points, either way it comes. If we can get 4 points in the next 2, not saying we're going to be shooting up the table, but at least we might not be cut adrift. With Man City and then who we've got coming up. And then we've got Arsenal coming up as well. So we've got some really tough fixtures coming up. So we have to somehow have to get a draw or win this weekend. Ipswich away won't be easy either. So we have to see. I did see a comment about you need to this one. I was like, that's one of the areas I was actually concerned about. That our set piece is not going well for you guys.
No.
We've had about 80 plus. And I think we've scored.
That's all right. Then you're scoring against us from a set piece. Then,
but are you not good at set pieces? Are you not good at defending them?
We're just the most charitable team ever. Like, if you haven't scored a goal in a million years, you'll score against Palace.
Nice.
Yeah, we just carry great records.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm taking it all day long. So if you want to give us a set piece goal, we'll gladly take it. But
we've just got to beat the first man first, Rich.
Yeah,
we like to just hit the first man, and then it comes to nothing. That's what we like doing.
We need a set piece. We need a play. Like the goal we scored against Forest. We worked it to the back post, and Bruno got on the end of it and hit it into the far corner. We need something that's different. Yeah. Everything's the same. It's always the long ball to Dan Burn, and he heads it down or heads it for a goal kick. We just need to do something different. Yeah. No, we did. That was the only one out of 80 plus. That was the game. That was the goal.
Did Forest not score against us with a corner as well? Murillo.
Yeah.
Well,
that was a free kick.
It was a free kick.
Before Wolves, I think we went 200 and something corners. Yeah. Before Wolves.
I'm laughing. We're crap as well, Mitch. Don't worry.
You watch there be 50 corners between the two of us.
Oh, yeah.
Just constant set
pieces. Instead of launching it, just kick it out for a corner. There's no worries.
Oh god! Right, we've done the tactics, we've done the lineup. It'd be interesting, from both perspectives, both teams, how we set up, the personnel that are in the team. That should be a really interesting one. But look, is there a couple of questions to throw at Rich before we go to predictions and see out the show?
Let me see. Didn't read this yet, but I'll read it as it comes on screen. Foxy, question for Loaded. Do you not see long-term us going with a similar formation to Palace? Tino and Hall as wing-backs, Gordon playing more centrally behind Isak. It's desperate us having unnatural right wingers.
That could work for you, you know.
I'm just bringing it back up on. I might have to bring it back up on the screen.
Get it back over, yeah.
So what we're looking at? We're looking at more of like this formation.
That formation would actually work.
Back three, interesting.
Have we got Botman there, Pete? Can we throw
Get
him in?
We got Botman. Just for the fun.
Ignoring Kelly for some reason.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, well, do you have Botman? Botman.
Oh,
you also have 12 players.
Yeah, no. We do. We'll take one of them out, and I'm not sure.
Hey, Pete, can I be a little bit cheeky here? Can we grab Palace's number 6 and throw?
No, I was going to do it. I was going to throw it there.
I'll get rid of all the other Palace
I
players.
hope he scores against you now.
Oh God! He's on the set piece.
Brilliant. So, I mean, forget personnel for a second, but like setting up like that, having almost kind of like your 2 number 10s there. Like I say, forget personnel and the players are actually there, but it's a formation that could potentially work for sure. But the only thing I would say is, could it work? I mean, because Rich, you were saying you needed a kind of a focal point striker rather than Nketiah up there. Would we need the same? Would we need someone that's more of a battering ram to play that role? Could Isak play there and you play just for this purpose? Could you be putting Callum Wilson up there long term and playing Isak in that number 10 and he's played number 4? I
think you've got more depth in your squad to be able to, whoever it is, the quality is there. I think for us, because of the style of player that Sarr is, someone needs to hold up the ball for him. He's not going to create something out of nothing. If it was, like I said, and it's so hard to keep harping on about it, but if it was Michael Elise, we could play anyone up top. Like Eze and Elise will create something.
Yeah.
But with it being Sarr and obviously it was Justin Devaney the other day, not even Eze. Mateta was really, really pivotal to the build-up there. And to Isak's credit, I think he does drop deep a lot. So I think he plays quite well anyway. So
yeah, he does like to pick up the ball and travel, and that there allows him to drift into that left wing position or that left sided position, which he likes to do on occasion anyway. And then you've got the battering ram, similar to you with Mateta. Wilson loves a tussle. He loves a battle with that. And that could be actually an interesting battle because Wilson will come on the pitch at some point on Saturday. Yeah, in Lacroix, obviously you talked about his recovery running in and behind, but Wilson will almost back him up closer to goal and just be really physical with him and kind of almost occupy him, which will allow other players to come and play in and around that. So
what's Isak like blocking passing lanes? The only reason I ask is Lacroix will look for Sarr and Ebbs. Passing it through the lines is really good.
What I would say, he is a good presser of the ball. He doesn't do it continuously throughout the game. But what you do find is whoever plays out wide, and I'll just put Gordon back on for purposes. We'll just stick him there. What you'll find is if it's Gordon and Joe Linton, whoever plays where, they run inside as well. They won't just press down the sides. They'll press inwards as well. So if Henderson's going to play the ball out here or Lacroix's going to play the ball out here, you're going to get Isak pressing, but you're going to get Joe Linton coming in here, Gordon in there.
Interesting to know.
So it does happen. They do press in quite well, and you know, even though we lost to West Ham, we did get quite a bit of joy from that high press, particularly in the first half. So you will see it at some point, for sure.
So what that probably means is what Dean Henderson won't play short then. If Glaston's done his homework, Dean Henderson will start knocking the ball straight up to Ismail Assar, who's very good in the air.
Yeah,
and then we try and pick up that second and build from there.
Yeah, we do press high, and we'll probably start by doing that. You probably see it in the first 10 minutes that we'll press really high. You'll see Isaac making those runs, particularly on Henderson and Naquara when they get the ball. Gordon will be doing the same, and Joe Linton will be running in whichever side he is, exactly the same. So, yeah, it will happen. We could almost guarantee it. Any other questions?
Yeah, there's one here that thanks Chris for starting it. And I think I know that some of the answers here already, but we'll go from Tom Dixon. He goes, for Rich, who will Palace buy in January and who will they let go? Obviously, it'll be Ryan Cherky and then go with Mark A. But what are you thinking, Rich?
I can never ask you who Palace will buy because you just never know. I'm just hoping that it's done January 1st. That's what I'm hoping for. We love last day of the window, something stupid. But hopefully, maybe Ryan Sharkey and then left wing back. I think we might go back in for an Archie Brown, who's currently at Ghent.
Okay.
So we had the Ghent a scout on there about
3
or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, we did.
Go away! Stop looking at our players.
It's for a player we'd already signed. That's
yeah, but like I said, the big question mark throughout the whole of January is Walmart.
Okay. Maybe we'll be having another conversation in January.
I think we will be.
Yeah.
Rich, can I ask you a question, Rich? Like, and I've always been like a big fan of this player. And obviously, I've seen you put him in the 11. But how's Tyreek Mitchell getting on? Because for me, particularly when Luke Shaw was obviously injured for England, I was thinking like he was going to be, the next potential left back for England. But he's never quite made that jump. And obviously now, Lewis Hall has broke on the scene. But is he progressing how you'd hoped? Is he someone that you want to keep hold of, or do you think that he'll end up moving on?
It's a weird one with Mitch because we were all clamoring for him to get an England call up. Then he got the call up, and his performance levels dropped bad. Then obviously Glasner came in, and we started to see the old Mitchell again. It was like, oh, he's actually attacking. I think the problem Mitchell has is that he's not a wing back. So defensively, he's very good. Attacking wise, he's not as good. Crossing's not really good. Don't get me wrong, he is trying. But it just feels like we can't attack down the left hand side with much potency because we don't have a natural wing back. And I think that's why we're looking for potential cover there. But like I said, defensively, I've got no issues with him. Play him in a 4-4-2, 4-3-3, he's fine. Play him as a wing back, he does struggle. You'll see this difference on Saturday. You'll see how Munoz attacks, and you'll see how Mitchell does.
Okay. Interesting. If there's no other questions, we'll go to predictions.
Let's go for predictions. Yeah.
I'm going to stick to my prediction. Okay. I think it's going to be a tight game. I don't think there's going to be a lot in it. I do think there'll be chances for both teams, but I do think that Newcastle, we have to win. I said it to you boys the other day. We have to win now. We lost to West Ham. It's a must win. And I'm going to say we're going to win 2-1. That's my go-to. 2-1 Newcastle.
I'm saying we're going to absolutely smash Palace. 1-0 Newcastle.
1-0.
1-0. I think it's going to be close, but 1-0 Newcastle.
Rich?
I'm quietly confident, and I don't know why. I think it's more so. Look, can I be honest with you? You should have beaten West Ham. You should have beaten. I'm sorry. You had enough chances to do so.
Yeah.
And just the goals you conceded, you'll be very disappointed. But like I said, I just think the aspect of somehow you can't deal with crosses, which is weird, with a 6'5" Burn. I think he's 6'5", I believe. He's
6'7".
6'7".
All right.
Sorry,
And obviously, I think Shah and Burn, they're too far apart at times, and obviously can't deal with pace. So that's what I'm hoping. That's why I think we should play on the counter again, and that might be our joy. And that also kind of nullifies the space for like an Isak or Gordon to run in behind. That's where they're really dangerous. So I'm going to go 2-1 Palace. I hope.
So two teams playing on the counter, and neither of them wanting like in a corner. Interesting game to watch for the neutral.
Yeah.
Go on, Chris.
So, Pete, you've gone 2-1 Newcastle. Rich has gone 2-1 Palace, and Daz has gone 1-0 Newcastle. Yeah. Funnily enough, I as soon as you asked the question, I was like, oh, and Tom Dixon took the words out of my mouth. I'm going for a Desmond. I think it's going to be 2-2. I think it's going to be 2. I think there'll be goals. And now, after what Rich has said, I kind of feel like a set piece goal is like an absolute certainty. Like whether it's us
either team,
yeah. So a set piece goal and 2-2. I think. I think there'll be goals in it. And honestly, I'm really, really intrigued to see what this lineup's going to be, and how Eddie's going to try and combat that Palace midfield, because it's not very often, Rich, and this is a compliment to you boys, it's not very often that we come up against a team and we say, oh, midfield could be tricky. Quite often we look at our midfield and go, no problem, they're going to struggle against our midfield. Whereas when I looked at your lineup, I was looking at not just the numbers but also the players and thinking, do you know what, that could be really difficult for us. So yeah, I think there'll be plenty of goals, and I'm going to say 2-2.
Just a few things. I think substitutions, will play a massive part in this. And I don't think we've got enough depth. If we see Jeffrey Schlupp on this pitch, I'm just throwing it out there.
I've heard you boys wanting blood.
Oh, gosh. Every time he comes on, granted, he nearly scored against Villa, by the way. Nearly won it for us. But every time he comes on, we just seem to lose any sort of impetus in anything.
He's been at use forever, hasn't he? He's just Jeffrey Schlupp every season. You see him come on, it's just like, now is he like 100? He's just been there forever, hasn't he?
He's terrible. And I believe Tom Dixon had a question regarding stadium. So we are going to be building our main stand. That's going to be a 2-tier stand as well, similar to our home store. I think the building's going to start in the summer. Now, the benefits of this, and I think away fans are going to like this. At the moment, our gantry is on the Arthur Waite where the away stand is. So then you see those stupid poles which block. Yeah.
In view.
Once the new stand's built, that's going to be moved, which means there'll be no pole anywhere, because it'll be more state of the art. And then you'll have a better view of the game. I'm sorry, we're very old-fashioned, old-school ground. I know it could be a nuisance.
You can't see all the goals.
We apologize, but don't apologize.
Halfway sticking behind the pole.
Unless you're right at the front, you can't see the other goal. And so, like, it tends to happen at away games. You just kind of, you don't go to your number, you see everyone just goes to six, but they want to see it.
Yeah,
and so, like, everyone's filtering to the front because the pillar's not in the way, so you can actually see the other.
At least you don't have to walk up many stairs. I give you.
That is true. That is true. The one thing I'll say about Newcastle United, well, two things. One, we have to score first. We have to score the first goal. Give ourselves something to hold on to. The second thing, give Palace the ball. Give them the ball. I've looked at your stats, Rich. The possession of the opposition against Palace in the last few games, 70% Villa, 67%, I think it was, Tottenham not long ago. Villa in the Cup, I think, had 57%. And then Fulham had 66% or something like that. Like, so you give away massive amounts of possession, but that's what you want because it plays into your hands. We did that to West Ham. We had all possession. We played into their hands and they hit us on the break. We need to do the same because that's what we did second half to Forest. Give them the ball and let us counterattack them. That's what I want Newcastle to do on Saturday. And I think if we can get the first goal by doing that, I do think we'll go on and win the game.
Foxy,
Meet Foxy, Rich.
Foxy knows, Rich.
Our youth academy, the players that are coming, it's crazy. I've been advocating for Asher Agbanoni. He's going to be on our bench again. And somehow Jeffrey Slot will find his way playing ahead of him. I hope he just gets some minutes. This kid is Wilfred Zaha 2.0.
Wow.
I'm saying it. This guy's a talent. You know, what I'll do is I'll see if I can find a clip. I'll send it to you, Pete, and you can hear it.
Yeah.
This kid is incredible. And I just hope he gets a chance because he's really good.
Double deal, says Ian. Okay.
Yeah.
He is winding you up. I love it. Oh, but boys, we'll stop it there. It's been a great chat, Rich. Massive thanks to you. Look, we've got it in the description as well, but if anyone isn't, go and subscribe to Eagle Eye Football. Rich and the team have got a great channel over there, Talk Football. As you can tell, we've had a great chat tonight, and Rich, we've had you on before, and you really know your stuff. It's been a pleasure, mate. So, best of luck after Saturday for the rest of the season,
and you too.
And as we said, I'm sure come January we might be having some conversations again.
I think we'll be chatting every day.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. So
thank you.
That's away days up in a wrap. Now we've just got to wait for Newcastle to do their part from our perspective.
Quick shout out to the Radiator Shed as well. Play a little tune, the jingle everyone loves. Yes, that's the Radiator Shed. And for 20% off, contact Russ at theradiatorshed.com and our telephone 077 666 04112. And for all your radiator needs. And you know what? We might as well promote ourselves as well because we always forget to. And with it being Black Friday, there's a 20% off the loaded shop as well. So you'll find the link in all our shows description for 20% off the range of merch like mugs, hats of different types. Oh, that's the transparent picture. Lovely. Bobble hats, like sweatshirts, t-shirts, loads of different things. Go check it out. That is it. So yeah, let's play a little jingle. We'll be back for the reaction show on Saturday night. So join us then. See you later. Have a good one.